Okay, this is Ms. Ron again. We're going to continue with section 5.1. You'll be working on the same guided notes that where we left off before. This says the degree of a polynomial is the greatest degree of any of its terms. For example, 7x cubed minus 5x plus 3. Notice there are 3 terms. This makes this a trinomial. And you have a degree of 3, you have a degree of 1, and you have a degree of 0. So they use the greatest. That would be a 3. We have a negative x, y, z. That's one term. That's a monomial. And remember, in one term, you add the degrees. 1, 1, and 1 adds to be a 3. Right, we have x to the 4th minus 5. Now look, we have 2 terms. That's a binomial. This is where we take the greatest degree. Well, this one has a degree of 4. Remember, a constant has a degree of 0. So the highest degree is a 4. Okay, we're going to work some problems now. And these problems are going to be like those that you'll see in homework. Find the degree of 18. Now remember, this is a constant. 18 is the same as 18 times x to the 0. And x to the 0 is always 1. So, the degree of a constant is always 0. Always 0. 5x to the 4th, the degree is sitting there as a 4. Here's a trinomial, 1, 2, 3 terms. This has a degree of 2. This one has a degree of 1. This one has a degree of 0. Now remember, in a polynomial, you take the highest degree, and that's going to be 2. All right. Negative 5x cubed yx to the 4th. Everything's being multiplied, so this is one term. This is a monomial. You have a 5 that has a degree of 0, remember. You have a 3 plus an understood 1 plus a 4, making this a degree of 8. All right. Number 5, 2 cubed x to the 4th z. Remember, this is a monomial, and the degree is the sum of the degrees of the variables. So that's the 4 plus 1. You do not use a degree of a constant. Remember, that's 0. So this is going to be a degree of 5. All right. Classify and give the degree of the polynomial. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. It is called a polynomial. Now the degree. This is where we're going to take the sum of each term. So 2 plus 1 would be 3. 1 plus 3 would be 4. 1 and 2. And we give the greatest degree to the degree of the polynomial. So the degree would be a 4. All right, now we're going to begin simplifying. And here we're combining like terms. We have y's that will go with y's, y squares that will go with y squares. Now, I do want these in descending order. So the first thing I'm going to work with are the y squares. Now, a y square added to y square is still going to be a y square. You're not going to rename it. So I have y squares, and 7 plus 5 is going to be 12y squared. Then I have y's, and I have 5 minus 8. Remember, signs are different. You subtract, take the sign of the larger number, negative 3y. And now this is decreasing for y. Degree of 2, degree of 1. All right, now we have x squared y, we have x squared y, we have constant, and we have x. So I'm going to go decreasing for x. So I'm first going to be looking at x squared y terms. There'll still be x squared y terms, but 8 plus 5 is 13. Now I'm going to be looking at x terms. 6 minus 4 is going to be a negative 2x, so we've done those. And finally, we have a constant sitting on the end. So my final answer is 13x squared y plus 2x minus 1/2. Notice the x's are in descending order. X squared, x to the first, no x. All right, number 9. We always are going to get rid of parentheses, all groupings first. And since this is being added, we will change no sign at all. No signs when you add. Now, we're going decreasing order for x. So 6x squared added to 2x squared will be 8. Don't change the name, still x squared. Then I'll go to x's. I have 1x and I have a negative 4x. So it's still going to be x's. These signs are different. You subtract at the sign of the larger number, negative 3x. And finally, my constants. Negative 4, negative 11. The signs are the same. I'll add, keep the same sign, negative 11. All right, number 10. Again, we're adding. So we're not going to change any signs as we drop the parentheses. Now you'll notice here we have x squares. We have x's. And we have y squares. So we've got a variation here of what to do. First of all, I'm going to recopy. Now I'm going to go decreasing order for x, and that will also have me increasing for y. So I'm looking at my x squared terms first. And 1 plus 4 would be 5, x squared. Now I'm going to see if I have just any x terms, and I do. I'm just going to bring it down. Now look and see. Next, I have an xy term, and you'll see as my x is going down, now I'm beginning to pick up a y. And that's the only one, so I'll bring it down. And then I have y squares, and I have a plus 1 and a negative 7. My signs are different, so I'm going to subtract to keep the sign of the larger number. And if you'll notice, as my x's go down, my y's begin to increase, and that happens a lot, and that's a good way to write that. Now, be very careful here. Number 11. You see this minus sign. When you have a minus sign in front of a parentheses, everything changes. Everything changes. Now, I'm not a big one to start putting in extra signs. I don't like that. I'm going to say this sign says change. That's all it says is change, and I'm through with it. So that says, okay, plus 2 now becomes negative 2. Plus 3 becomes negative 3. Negative 10 becomes plus 10. And plus 4 becomes negative 4. Now let's go decreasing for x. So let's go through and look through all of our x cubes. Negative 1 and negative 2 will be negative 3x cubed. Go for x squares here and here. 10 minus 3 would be plus 7x squared. Let's look at x's. I have a plus 10 and a negative 4. Subtract, sign of the larger, that would be a plus 6x. And constants, negative 4, negative 1, same sign, I'm going to add and keep the negative. You notice all the x's are in decreasing order. Number 12. One more time just to show you, a plus sign does nothing. So I don't change any signs. I'm going decreasing for x squared. So negative 5x squared comes in front. Then I have a negative 2x and a positive 2x, which is gone. It's 0. And 7 minus 1 is 6. So that one is very short. All right, let's look at 2 more. Let's say we have 3 terms. The first one has no sign in front of it, drop it. A plus sign, just drop the parentheses. Don't change anything. This negative sign, though, needs to be an alert. Change everything. So negative 4 becomes positive 4. Negative 6 becomes positive 6. Now, let's look at our x squares. I have a 4x squared and a negative 4x squared, which undoes one another. So I'm left with 6x squared. And I have a negative 5 and a negative 1, which is negative 6, and a positive 6, which undoes one another. It becomes 0. So 6x squared is my final answer there. Now, we're going to just touch this last problem on a function. On a function. If you'll think about this, this is really the same as saying y equals. And what you're doing is saying that I want to substitute. I want to take this y, this function, and find out what y is if x is equal to 6. This is telling you that this value right in here is my x value. So they're saying, okay, if I let x be 6 and I substitute in for every x, what do I get? I have 36 plus 12 plus 3, which is 48 plus 3, which is 51. Now that's P of 6. Now class, what that's really telling you is that when x equals 6, y equals 51. That's exactly what we're saying there. Okay, this kind of ends my little wrap up on 5.1. When you go to your homework, I hope you'll let me know if this helped or not. Thank you so much.